I still like my own TV show, but not, I mean, I don't think I could do a Noel Edmonds, for instance. I could, but it's a question of whether I wanted to. And I don't think so. I've got 2 grandchildren now, which I absolutely adore, and they're the light of my life.
Is there a drought in show business at the moment? It seems to me there aren't many Cillas, Bruces, Dales, Paul O'Grady's. Where are these big stars who will be around in 50 years coming from? Or has that finished now? Is it just a different time and a different generation?
Oh, it's totally changed, and reality television changed all that. But I can't knock that because I was probably the forerunner of that in with Blind Date and Surprise, Surprise. But most of my shows, even in the BBC shows, when I was having big stars like Cliff and the late Harry Seacombe and Bob Hope and amazing stars, I still went out on the streets and talked to the public. And that was still the biggest thing in the show. I mean, you'd have your biggest star on the Cilla show, and what they loved most was me going out interviewing in supermarkets and on the streets of London saying, do you know who I am? And stuff like that. And then along came Surprise, Surprise, which was everybody always remembers the last part of we had to finish with it because we couldn't follow it, was the big reunion thing. But Surprise, Surprise, when you dig deep, we had a lot of fun in that. We had a Cillagram going out and me pouncing on people and singing a song for them and dragging them in the Cillagram, and they were on TV. So Surprise, Surprise and Blind Date was probably the forerunner of reality shows. So I can't knock it. I have to say I don't really like Big Brother. I used to. I loved it, but it's getting more freaky. Really is getting more freaky. I adore Simon Cowell because now he is the real deal. I mean, what you see is what you get with Simon. I think he's gorgeous. It's an either or, isn't it, with Simon? People either think he's incredibly fanciful, which I do. I'm in that camp. Or, they only think of him wearing high trousers, high waistbands. But I think he's terrific. He's incredibly clever. And was incredibly great with me when Bobby died, actually, because we were negotiating, and my son had to look after me, Robert. And I know nothing about business, and I know nothing about negotiating. And neither did Robert, actually. He did, but he didn't know what record deals. And so I invited Simon out to lunch to meet Robert. And not only did he pay for lunch, but he really gave Robert some really great advice. And I shall be ever grateful to Simon for that. He's the most generous person and incredibly talented, both on and off the screen.
It's Alex Belfield on your favourite local radio station. We're back with Cilla Black for an exclusive hour-long programme. I want to talk to you about the music, if we can, for a moment, because it's the thing that you started doing. It's the thing that you wanted to be remembered for. It's the thing you don't do today. Are we ever going to see you touring again?
Oh, God forbid. I mean, it's hard work. It really is hard work, as I said earlier, But I loved it then. I was really hungry. I'm not that hungry now. I mean, the only time I probably would do something like that, a concert, would be in London, maybe the Royal Albert Hall, and it would have to be for charity. I most certainly wouldn't perform, or indeed go on the road again for financial gains. I wouldn't do that. And I've guested on Sir Cliff's tour and indeed made a DVD with him, and I enjoyed that immensely. It was great. I remember when I went, because I'm a big fan of Cliff's anyway, and he was on the Albert Hall, and he said, do you fancy coming up? Because he'd done a duet with me on Imagine, and he did the most amazing vocals on it. He really made... I've never heard Imagine since John Lennon, of course, who could top John Lennon, but I've never heard anybody sing Imagine, the two of us together. It was so unique. And I said, I'll think about it. I said, look, can I come down in the interval and tell you yay or nay. And he was great. He said, yeah, fine. I turned up for rehearsals. We did the rehearsal and I loved it. I said, look, can I not come out dry? Can I sort of like do my own thing for a little bit and then do the duet? Because I'm a bit rusty, that's all. He said, yeah, what do you want to do? And I went really right back to my roots. And I thought, I'll do Peggy Lee's Fever. Because that was my audition number I did in the Cavern with Jerry and the Pacemakers for Brian Epstein. And I thought, I'll do that. I can play around with that. And it's easy. So I followed him sing. Oh, I went first start. I was going down the interval. I was terrified. I was nervous. And I said, I'm going down to tell him I can't do this. I cannot do this. And I went down, then all of a sudden this calm came over me. And I knew what was really making me nervous. I wasn't used to sitting in a theatre before I was going on. You know, I had to be backstage. And all of a sudden they gave me my own dressing room and I thought, wow, I'm back home. This is where I belong. I'm at home. I'm backstage. And I said, what do I follow? Get me on there. What do I follow? And he said, I'm going to do Devil Woman. I said, okay. So there I was in my own dressing room, having a glass of champagne. And I heard him do Devil Woman, so I went to stand by. And his introduction to me, more or less, it was more than this, but the latter part was, well, from one devil woman to another, here she is, Cilla Black. And I walked on and I just stood there and the whole audience stood up and I thought, wow, this, and I couldn't wait to get to the microphone. But the old talent in me stood back and he's looking at me because he's got his back to the audience. Come on. And I thought, no, I'm going to savor this moment forever. Anyway, I walked down, he left the stage, and, well, I nearly cost him £5,000 in overtime that night because I was on there 20 minutes. It took 20 minutes. I had a captivated audience and I was chatting and talking to the audience and then singing. And he actually went in when he'd had a cup of tea, you know, dried off a little bit and said, how's she doing? And his PA said, she hasn't even started the song yet.
I want to talk just very finally about this touring thing because your fans want to see you live again. You want to be remembered as a singer. When are you going back on tour?
Oh, you're making me feel guilty now, aren't you? I've been asked. I probably will. There are times when I think I wish I was more like Shirley Bassey, which is, it's her life. I have to stress again, it's show business. I remember my husband saying, you don't work for the business, you make the business work for you. And you've got to remember, I'm very much a family person. And I do have two beautiful grandchildren who I want to spend every hour that God sends me to be with Max and Lana. I'm in a different era now. And I would do that charity concert, but it means me having to work. I mean, I don't even sing in the shower now, never mind, you know. I'd never play my own records. I never ever do that. I'd be embarrassed. I mean, I did an advert for LV, and every time it comes on, an insurance advert, I have to switch over. I can't bear to watch myself on television or even listen to myself. But I love entertaining the public. I love that. And I promise you, I will do a concert. I've got to now, haven't I?
We have, really, for the sake of your eulogy and for your fans. I mean, you can't have the singer if you're not singing.
Oh, well, all right. But, I mean, Alfie is bloody hard to do these days. I mean, I could never. I'll have to take it down a few notches. I couldn't reach that high note.
I'm sure they'll still love you nevertheless. Let's talk in our very final moments about the greatest thing that's ever happened to you in show business, aside from the family, which is obviously your priority and your great love. What was the moment in show business when you went, this is it, this is the moment?
It wasn't any of the number ones or any of the big hits. When I really thought that I had arrived is when I was invited to do my very first Royal Command performance. That was in 1964. And I remember it was the doorman, and he was always right. He said, "You're going to be doing the Royal Command this year." And I said, "Oh, don't be silly. I've only been in show business 9 months." You know, he said, "No, I've tipped you. You're going to be on the Royal Command." And lo and behold, he was right. He was absolutely right. Because I am a royalist anyway. Always was. My family were. And I remember when at about 9, maybe I was 11, the Queen came to Liverpool. And I swore to God that it was me she was waving at. Me? She waved at me. And all the crowds coming down Scotty Road, I was convinced it was me. And to actually meet the Queen was absolutely incredible. And to perform for the Queen. And in those days, in the early 60s, you had to wear gloves. And it was terribly grand. And she wore gloves as well. I mean, you never pressed the flesh. I was wearing shocking pink and gloves right up to my elbows. And it was absolutely fascinating. And I was appearing at the Palladium at the time with Frankie Vaughan and Tommy Cooper. Great bill. And, you know, my photograph was like 9 feet tall outside. And I remember the first question she asked me, "What are you doing at the moment?" I thought, is she blind? Couldn't she see the pictures outside? You know, the billboards, starring Cilla Black. And I just went, I never ever forget that, though. What am I doing at the minute? Well, apart from performing here, I couldn't believe that. But that was my proudest moment, I guess. Of course, I've met her several times since then. All of them, actually.
And of course, recently at the Royal Variety, you were on with Paul in the most fabulous outfit. That was something to behold and remember, wasn't it?
Oh, that was great. That was a little bit of history. I don't think we could ever top that. Because I think the public generally didn't believe that I could do that kind of thing. Or they weren't expecting it. That was really a naughty surprise. And it was a terribly naughty. It'd gone wrong all day. I mean, the outfit, the outfit that lit up. And I was working that myself. I had to do that myself. It wasn't someone off.
For those who didn't see it, it lit up in strategic places.
It did, yes. Well, I was playing a part from Gypsy, Miss Electra from Gypsy. And it was called You Gotta Get a Gimmick. And, you got to get a gimmick with a oomph and a oomph and a oomph. And 3 different phases. My boobs lit up. And then my crotch lit up. And then I bent over and my bum lit up. Which was very funny. It was straight from the musical Gypsy. So I was playing a part. That wasn't Cilla. But then I remember the producer and director of the show was Jeff Thacker. And I was being dressed, in the leotard and everything. And I kept saying, "Oh, lower down on the bum and lower down on the thighs." And all the time he was saying to Stephen Adnett, "Higher on the thighs and higher, could higher on the thighs and could higher on the bum line." And so on the day it arrived with all the pack in there, the radio pack, which was quite heavy actually. It was all the outfit was fabulous, but it never worked once. The lights never came on at all. And I thought, well, I can do it without lights. I don't have to light up. I can still do the number. So there was a guy with all the wires going up on the leotard. An hour at 7:30 in the evening, kneeling on the floor in my dressing room, soldering these wires in the leotard. And I remember Jeff and my son Robert standing in the wings when the first lights went on. Oh, God, it's working. Because they hadn't worked all the way through. And, of course, it brought the house down.
And that's the glamour of show business, isn't it?
Oh, well, that is, as they say, that's show business, folks.
My final question to you is, I can't understand how people make show business so difficult. You were, without question, in the 90s, the biggest star on TV, certainly at ITV. Before that, you were a star in your own right for many, many reasons, and you still are today. How do you manage to deal with it and not be into the drugs and not be completely bonkers and not be going into rehab when so many seem to find what is the greatest privilege and most fun job in the world the most difficult thing to do?
It's a different time we're living in altogether. But I always say, if you don't want it, don't do it. Look, if you don't want the press, the media is so intrusive today. The media have always been great with me, by the way. But I always say, if you don't want it, don't go there. Don't really go there. Go behind closed doors, have private parties, and the drug thing, that's what really bothers me. But the drugs were always there. But the thing is, even in the early days, well, as you know, the 60s, make love, not war and all the rest of it. But I couldn't do any of that because, you know why? Ego. They were all groups, remember. I was a single artist. So if someone was out of it on stage in a band, someone else would cover for them. I had no cover at all, but myself. So I had a responsibility and my ego was far too large to get involved. Plus the fact I was frightened. I was terrified of drugs. I really was. I remember being at a party and everybody was there. I can say it now. The Beatles, the Moody Blues, blah, 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 you name it, all these bands were there. And this spliff was being handed round on a pin. And I thought, it's been in everybody else's mouth. It ain't going in mine. It has one mouth. It ain't going in. I didn't smoke anyway. So that was a blessing, really. But I don't know. I think I turned on once it was once. I didn't like it. It didn't do anything to me, and it's bad for the throat and probably bad for your health anyway. So I tried to be a naughty girl, but it didn't work for me. But today I feel sorry for your Amy Winehouses, because I think she's such an incredible talent, really. And it's just so hard to see her destroy herself. The thing is, you can only get help if people come to you for help. No point. Look, when a smoker, even cigarettes, nobody can give up smoking for you. You have to do it for yourself, and you've got to want to do it. At the minute, a lot of young people don't want to do it. So they can, to help yourself, you've got to ask for help for other people.
Cilla, you're so loved. Please do the live tour. Thank you so much for allowing me into your home to do this exclusive hour special. We're really, really grateful, and all the years of asking has paid off. Thank you for your time. Good luck in the future, and enjoy yourself in Barbados as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it. It's a pleasure. And I'll invite you to the next karaoke party I am.